So there's something pretty concerning, very concerning, I should say, going on right now all over the nation. And so recall that due to heavy usage of mail in voting, Democrats were able to defeat Donald Trump and take the Georgia Senate elections, creating a 50-50 split in the Senate. So unfortunately, it was kind of inevitable that Republicans were going to strike back by basically changing laws and rules to make it harder to vote so that they could suppress the vote. This is nothing new for Republicans. They know that if more people vote, they're going to lose. So they have to pass laws with this fake justification of mail-in voting fraud, period, which doesn't exist. Every time they try to prove it, it failed. We also saw with Tucker Carlson, they tried to prove like individual cases of mail-in voter fraud, but every time they went, knocked on the door, they answered, and they gave an explanation. So it was fake. It was fake news, quite literally. So this is happening all over the nation in Republican states, and unfortunately, this is what happens when a liberal wins. The liberals go to sleep, and so ever since Joe Biden won, the liberals have gone to sleep, except for when it comes to defending Joe Biden against dementia stuff. Or Trump criticisms. And so now what's happened is, despite all of this going on, liberals have not shown the same, resistance as they did previously to other stuff. So this says scholars warn democracies threaten call for voting rights protections. There's a group of university professors and scholars on Tuesday signed onto a statement calling for increased federal voting protections, warning that U.S. democracy is, quote, now at risk with the wave of recent GOP-led legislative proposals across the country seeking to implement sweeping voting overhauls. The dozens of academics, which included political science and government professors at schools like Stanford, Harvard, and Cornell, in the letter called themselves scholars of democracy who have watched the recent deterioration of U.S. elections and liberal democracy with growing alarm. Specifically, we have watched with deep concern as Republican-led state legislatures across the country have in recent months proposed or implemented what we consider radical changes to core electoral procedures in response to unproven and intentionally destructive allegations of a stolen election. Collectively, these initiatives are transforming several states into political systems that no longer meet the minimum conditions for free and fair elections. Scholars went on to say that with these proposed election changes, our entire democracy is now at risk. So this is a big deal. This article also notes that in Texas, State House Democrats staged a walkout to prevent the passage of a sweeping elections bill that would have banned drive-through voting and 24-hour voting and imposed felony penalties on public officials who offered mail-in voting applications to voters who did not request them. So they don't want people to be able to vote, especially with the mail-in voting that was really big of a deal. So they're trying to really shut that down. This article also notes states are passing a record number of voting restrictions. It says Republican state legislatures have passed a record number of bills curtailing voting access in the first 5 months of 2021, the year after a national election saw the highest turnout election in modern history without evidence of widespread voter fraud. Legislators in 14 states, almost all of which are controlled by Republican governors and legislators, have passed 22 bills to curtail access to the ballot box. The previous record set in 2011 when 14 states passed 19 new laws restricting ballot access. So how you even combat this, I'm not even really sure. It would have to be federal pressure is really the only way. Pressuring the states via federal power is the only way I could really think of, because in most of these states, there just aren't the numbers of legislators or government officials who are Democrats to even oppose this, to stop it. And even if there were enough Democrats that would, voting based, that would make it so that they had more legislators if it were fair elections. These elections are heavily gerrymandered, et cetera, et cetera. So the only thing I could think of is Joe Biden, the DOJ, like people like that really hammering, which that's a lot of power, and that's what you should do in this situation. But it is very concerning because obviously this is going to affect the outcome of the elections, and the election was really close in 2020. There was a really close election that gave Joe Biden the win, and so they're trying to make sure that next time he doesn't get the win. So very, very concerning to see. This is horrible for democracy. Obviously, these are not free and fair elections. And the fact that scholars, political scientists, are warning that democracy is threatened is definitely a very big deal, man, for sure.